Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. An undisputed fight between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua will not take place until at least 2020. This has been confirmed by Deontay Wilder's manager, Shelly Finkel, who told the Boxing Voice he's fighting his mandatory now. Then we have a pretty full slate for this year. Then we will discuss fighting Joshua next year. The name calling, the immaturities that are in the press, they won't help but won't hinder making the fight. They are all in the works. There is nothing confirmed at this point. The only thing that is locked in is the fight with Brazil on May 18. If everything goes the way we hope it will, we will then discuss his next fight. I have spoken with John Skipper, an DAZN top executive, more than once. Him and I are developing a very good relationship, and I'm very fond of him. Those talks will continue, and eventually it will lead to a fight of Deontay and Joshua. Shelly Finkel statements to the Boxing Voice. Yeah, this whole thing, I mean, it's not exactly a big shock or surprise, is it? Deontay Wilder a couple of weeks ago had indicated that, and the way he tried to frame it and pitch it was Joshua would get his wish and they would fight in 2020. Deontay Wilder has not had his eye on the Undisputed fight for some time now. It seemed like it was getting very close when he almost accepted a $15 million offer. He verbally accepted it, said he would take the fight, but never signed the contract. And then obviously he had that whole $50 million offer for Joshua, which Joshua didn't accept. There were no negotiations entered into more recently by Deontay Wilder post his Tyson Fury draw. And Wilder even said that he would try to freeze Joshua out. And then that all came a cropper when Tyson Fury walked away, leaving Deontay Wilder with no big rematch. And that rematch would have helped Deontay Wilder really build his commercial value and his bankability as a pay-per-view star. But obviously, without a Fury, without that dance partner, he is now left back on regular Showtime, betting on himself, as he says. He was offered a $100 million deal by DAZN, didn't take it, didn't know what Anthony Joshua was getting because he wants to get 50-50. And let's not kid ourselves, this has always been about money. For all the talk and all the name calling, and it's not just name calling by Eddie Hearn, there's been name calling by Deontay Wilder in particular, but all of this has been about trying to get more money. I do firmly believe that fans have been played to some extent by, the both sides at different respective points. I think Joshua legitimately wanted the fight for this year, but obviously Deontay Wilder wasn't biting. There was no 50-50 being offered, so he's not going to take it. And this is what it boils down to. It's always been about money. It's always been about positioning. And you can see what's going to happen now. Both sides of the coin with the respective fan bases and the hardcore elements of each are going to be piling in on each other, saying it's each other's fault. But really what's happening is they're trying to just build this fight even further. But I'm just not convinced it needs any more building. I mean, I don't know how much bigger this can really get, because at this point, it's not like a Floyd and Pacquiao situation where those two were clearly a couple of the biggest stars within boxing. Joshua is one of the 2 or 3 biggest stars, but Deontay Wilder, his bankability in the commercial stakes it's very unproven at this point. So obviously if they're not getting their 50-50 in the deal, they're just going to go their own way until they will get 50-50. This is what's been happening. The offers have been coming up, 12 million, 15 million, then it was 35%, then 40%. But it doesn't seem like Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua are going to go any higher in this. And Deontay Wilder knows that Anthony Joshua needs him for that piece of legacy. So he will just keep doing what he's doing, facing whoever he's going to face, and we'll talk about that soon, until he gets his demand. He's already said this. This was well signalled after the first failed negotiation between April and June 2018. That 50-50 was the offer, and if there wasn't a 50-50 offer, it wasn't going to be entertained. He said, you know what you need to do to make this fight. And we've never seen that offer, so we haven't got that fight. I think that's pretty clear. I just want to sort of really hammer home that this has all been about money and marinating the fight, making it bigger and bigger and bigger. And to some extent, it has worked. I think there's definitely more interest in this fight than there otherwise would have been, say, if it had happened in September last year. But I think there becomes a point where these things can start to go off the boil. I mean, for me, it's debatable whether we've actually reached that point. I just don't know how much bigger it can actually get, because among casual fans, they don't necessarily know, in America for it at least, Deontay Wilder is still growing his star power. He's not a household name for most people. And also Anthony Joshua, he is still building his brand in the United States. He's having his first fight there on June the 1st. So if they're trying to make a big splash in the heavyweight division in the United States with a big undisputed fight, obviously both need to do more ahead of that. And I think this is what they're trying to do, is trying to position these two guys for this eventual grudge match. But it's a very high stakes game because there's no guarantee that one, they both keep winning, but two, that the opponents that they're facing, that they can actually build their brands and the recognition among fans more broadly, among casual fans, any further than they have now. Maybe a bit, but maybe not to the same sort of levels that the Pacquiao and Mayweather fight was able to be built to. They were, very massive stars within boxing, worldwide stars, even where I am with, in New Zealand. Casuals knew of Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. I can't really say the same about Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. Some people know Joshua here where I am because of the Joseph Parker fight, but a lot of people don't know Deontay Wilder at all. A lot of people don't know Joshua at all because boxing is these days a bit of a fringe sport. Sure, there's massive events every now and then, like the crossover fight between Mayweather and Conor McGregor, but those come few and far between, and I just don't know the way that they've been building this fight is actually going to build it much bigger. So the whole thing, it's disappointing because, we're going to be waiting at least, another year before it gets made? Because what's going to happen after this for, say, Deontay Wilder? There's either going to be a Luis Ortiz rematch, which has been well signalled in recent days and weeks that it's effectively been confirmed to Luis Ortiz or promised to him. And that could be some of the reason why Ortiz, the negotiations with an Anthony Joshua have fallen over here, because he's effectively been told by his promoter, I can get you the same amount of money later this year for a fight. And that fight could probably only be Deontay Wilder. And the other guy in the pipeline is Adam Kovnatsky, who is a rising contender. He's in the PBC stable, just like Ortiz, just like Wilder. It's all in-house fight, keeping all the money in-house. And on the Joshua side, we may see that to some extent in the next year or so as well. Alexander Usyk is with Matchroom on a co-promotional deal, so he is likely to be the next opponent for Joshua if Joshua gets past whoever it's going to be on June 1st, and it looks like it's going to be Andy Ruiz Jr. to be announced imminently. So it's starting to look like the next year is mapped out for both guys well and truly. So Usyk is probably next for Joshua after he beats Ruiz, because I think that would happen. And then probably after that, Kubrat Pulev as his IBF mandatory. Joshua's going to have to fight some of these mandatories and get them out of the way, because they can't just lag on forever and a day. And Deontay Wilder getting his mandatory out of the way now, he will take a couple of voluntaries against Ortiz and Adam Kovnatsky, probably favoured to win both fights if he can get past Dominic Breazeale. But who's to say that one of these two guys doesn't lose and get upset in the next year? Alexander Usyk coming up to heavyweight, he is a real threat, and there is no guarantee that one of the opponents that they're lining up for Wilder doesn't knock him out or do something to actually stop Wilder. Remember, the guy is 33, turning 34 soon. He's got hand injuries galore in his career. He's got some durability issues with his body. Who's to say he can hold up to the rigors at elite level boxing for another year and stay undefeated? He's already gone on a run of 8 title defenses since 2015. It's a long time for a champion to be reigning. A punch he doesn't see coming here or there could actually stop him, or an injury in the ring, he could be hobbled and the other guy, the opponent, takes over and wins the fight. Anything could happen in the ring. These guys could be beaten, then all of a sudden there is no fight. And Deontay Wilder's been talking about betting on himself. And we're seeing the first fight since he turned down the DAZN deal for $120 million, which is going to be against Dominic Breazeale. That is going to be on regular Showtime. And then you potentially Ortiz and Kovnatsky. Are they pay-per-view events? It's probably marginal. I think a lot of fans would be like, yeah, that's kind of borderline for a lot of people, especially if the price is $75 on high definition. There is a bit of a price point and a tipping point for fans where they go, it's not the fight I really want to see. I want to see you face this guy, but you're facing this guy. I mean, that's why it's in Anthony Joshua's favour to some extent with the lower pay-per-view price in the UK. People are more willing to part with £20, which is about $25 US, because it's more reasonable. And people scoff at prices being higher in the United States like it's a good thing. And to some extent, I guess it is, because you can have smaller buys and still have decent revenue. But if people don't want to buy, you don't get the buy. So it's a double-edged sword there. But the whole thing with this Undisputed fight, it really is disappointing we haven't seen this. And that's heavyweight boxing in 2019. We get nothing that we would like to see. We're going to have Wilder versus Brazil, Joshua versus Ruiz Jr. by the look of it, and Fury versus Schwartz, and this is all fighting each other within the space of about 3 weeks of each other. No one wanted to see those fights, let's be honest here, and it just kind of is what it is. And we can write this one off for the rest of the year, and let's see where we go in 2020. But I'm glad that to some extent that this has been signalled now, because at least we can stop talking about it, because it's been driving boxing fans mad. And obviously this whole back and forth has been getting people all up in a lather, and I'll be glad to see that stop, because the will they, won't they is so tiresome. At least we can move on for now. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.